Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Kellum, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom.
Welcome back, everybody, to the amazing Whiskey and Wisdom podcast. We are recording yet again in the Cargo District Recording Studios in the soon-to-be newly minted secondary building of Coworks.
Yep, and have a food court on the back of it, so that'll be fun.
They're doing a lot of construction today, so if you hear anything in the background, I'm sorry.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we don't ever record in the daytime, so I forgot they do construction.
Oh, uh-oh.
Nah, it's all good. But this week, we have a returning guest, Kathryn.
Hey.
And someone that a lot of people should know. If they don't, Mr. Lowell. I'm just
Landon.
kidding. It's Landon. But yes, we are drinking something different because we're done with 75 hard.
Except for Kathryn, who's now on 75 hard, so she won't be partaking.
What's funny is both times I've been on this podcast, I'm not drinking.
You know what? That's true. So we're going to have to bring you back a third time, and hopefully we can get you to have something.
One of these days. And I'll bring the bottle that time.
Okay.
Whoever finds Kentucky Out Confiscated first to bring it on for your podcast.
There we go.
And something else before we jump into that is our last episode, we had on Emmy Gibson, who just received the Star News 40 Under 40 award. Mm-hmm. Landon received it last year, and Kathryn was one of the first recipients to get it in 2019.
So we're just bringing on these great people who are under 40. Eventually we'll have somebody over 40 again, but...
I'd just beat the deadline. I am 40 now. So.
See, there we go.
I was going to say both Chris and Tyler, you're next, but then I don't know how old you are, Chris.
No one does.
He's 45.
I'm real close to 40.
You're not that close. Anyway, what are we drinking today?
So this week we're sipping on the Firestone and Robertson's Texas Straight Bourbon.
Your face.
I just smelled it. It's strong.
This is just aged for just over 4 years in North Texas. And it's set up and uses great corn, wheat, and barley grown by a fourth-generation farmer up in Texas. So they try and keep it local. But
Oh, that makes sense, Texas. That's why you coughed.
yes. But on the nose, a little floral, maple,
No,
tad bit of
it's not.
cinnamon.
It is not.
It's a little strong, but we should taste a little allspice, brown sugar, and fig. And I promise we will post a picture of a fig, compare it to a date if anybody doesn't know the difference.
Thank you. I'm going to Google that when we leave.
Cheers.
I feel like you need some. You'll get on their level. Make your afternoon more interesting.
Tastes better with water.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely smoother than I expected. When it said from Texas, I expected to be like, it's not that bad.
Palmer would be very proud of me to find something that I don't like.
But you don't like it?
It's not that great.
Oh, it smells really good. That's like since I've been on 75 hard, I've smelled so much alcohol. I've never smelled it before. But now someone will have a glass of wine and be like, hey, can I smell your wine? Please.
You'd be like a sommelier now.
Yeah, pretty much. Like smelling that made my mouth water and it's not even good.
So it does taste better when you add a little bit of water in it because it does open it up, which is why I think it smells better now. It's opened a little bit more.
I love that you guys are super honest about what you drink because I felt like you just had to like talk up every bottle of whiskey you open and just
They
say
don't
how
pay
great
us.
it is.
We are not sponsored currently, so if you do want to sponsor us, anybody,
We will talk up here.
yes, please, Uncle Nearest, anybody in the Blanton's family, please, we'll take it.
Yeah, and we won't have to try to talk it up because we like everyone in those families. So
Yes,
it works.
I love how you're already laying the groundwork for that future sponsor.
Right, just in case, you never know. So we did talk about you a little bit last time, Kathryn. So if anyone didn't listen to that one, please listen to that as well. We'll talk about you more in a second. But for everyone who may not know Landon, go ahead and tell everyone who's listening a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well. So, yeah, born and raised here in Wilmington. Went to Duke back in 2000. Spent a year in Miami for law school. Transferred back to Duke. Still wondering why I did that one, but had a really good time in Miami. But after that came worked for Zimmer Development and Reed's Jewelers, both family owned here in Wilmington, and then went back to business school for a weekend executive MBA back in maybe 2010. So happy to be here. Love Wilmington. I love working here. Don't see myself anywhere else, and appreciate you all having me on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on in the middle of a Monday.
Happy to be here.
He just so you know, he's not drinking. He is a responsible adult. So wait, you wouldn't rather be in Miami right now?
Miami would be nice right now. It's probably some sunny beaches there, but no, my family, my extended family's here and grew up here. Just really like North Carolina.
And Kathryn and or Landon, how did you guys meet each other for the first time?
I think Jesse was having some business 40 under 40 or something, wasn't it? Or not 40 under 40. Wasn't there some real estate event at Penthouse?
I think something like that. And yeah, just through networking. I think everybody that's in any industry in this town will overlap at some point.
That's the reason why I wanted to bring it up too, just because I know you both are at a lot of networking events and kind of get around that way. Shout out for Jesse, because I would like to have him on the podcast at some point as well too.
Oh, he would be so much fun.
He'd be much better. You should have picked him. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I feel like those are two very different listenings, though, because Jesse, he is such an entrepreneur, but he's so much energy and he's so fun. And I feel like today, I'm super analytical. And so I am excited about the conversations we're going to get into, especially Landon, because you have a law degree, people that have gone through the industry the way that you have. I'm excited to hear your story.
Yeah, Jesse would be much more entertaining than me. But, maybe next time that's something to build up for.
All kind of value and all ways, shapes, and forms here. So go ahead.
My question: you do Zimmer Development Co. What is
Zimmer Development Company?
Okay, I always see CO when I answer the phone, so I don't actually know what the back end of it is. So what exactly is it?
So a very good question. So back in the late 80s, you had Zimmer and Zimmer, I guess LLP, which was a law firm in Wilmington, probably the biggest. I'd say, Biased was the best law firm in the late 80s or early 90s. And, you had Jeff and Herb Zimmer started that, or my dad started. And then when Jeff came to town after graduating law school, came to work there as well. And Jeff was always very popular with on the criminal side. He was a great criminal defendant. Always had all the flashy cars. Everybody wanted that lawyer. He always, had the Testarossa. I remember him driving me around when I was younger, and just awesome vehicles. Always liked cars. My dad was a little more conservative and did a lot more, excuse me, of the civil side. So they really worked well together. And I guess over time they were, giving a lot of advice to clients, and they thought, let's maybe open this up and look to do some more development ourselves. So late 80s, they started doing a lot of freestanding drugstores, a lot of food lines. I believe at one point Zimmer Development was Food Line's largest landlord.
Oh, wow.
And, expanded from there, and have kind of grown more into multifamily and student housing today.
Nice. So you're the reason why there's a Chinese food restaurant next to all of my food lines.
I never thought about that. That's accurate. True.
Yeah.
And so that would be Arlene, the director of commercial leasing. Yes, you can thank her for that. Hope they're up their ratings.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I always love that. Someone posted that on TikTok a while ago, and I'm like, that's not true.
And then you
Yes,
notice it is.
It is. I've only seen it not true once, and that's in North Chase, because the Chinese restaurant went out of business, but there's still a nail salon.
I was about to say nail
Yeah. So what got you interested in the real estate development side?
So actually, after coming back from law school, I was writing a book with a professor, and it was supposed to be published by Oxford University Press. I was going to be on the cover. It's very exciting, but it was a lot about enemy combatants, Guantanamo Bay and stuff. But it was kind of we just took too long to write. It wasn't topical, so it never actually got published. But I was going to be on the cover. I was very excited. Probably should have optioned to get paid versus being on the cover, but you learn a valuable lesson there. So it actually was employed by the university, Duke University. And then I got a call from mom. Dad had stage 4 cancer and he had made 12% chance of living. So he was going to pass away probably within the next 6 months. So came back to kind of work and take his place. But fortunately, he's still around. He's had all kinds of cancer since then. He's kind of a modern miracle, but still work with him and happy that it ended up the way it did. So that was the main reason I was going to be coming back. Yeah.
So, Kathryn, have you guys had any like business interactions on the legal side that you've had to work together, or have you been lucky enough to not have to?
So fortunately, not quite yet, but we actually got asked that question the other day when we were at the penthouse if we'd done any business together. And people do seem to overlap in Wilmington, but we probably will eventually.
Yeah. Just thought I'd ask. So no interactions with Jeff Zimmer either on the criminal side? Not yet.
Who do you think I am? No. I've been behaving myself for now.
Okay, well, that's good.
75 hard has kept her straight.
Right, yeah.
Seriously.
She's had to restart it how many times now?
One time on day 12 over some French fries.
So once you stop, you got to reboot.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think so. We'll talk about this on another podcast, but I made it to like 54 or something like that. And I just didn't drink enough water. I was like, I hate my life so much.
I know a lot of people that because of didn't the first time for you was a picture?
Yeah, so when I was doing the Live Hard program, I failed because of the picture.
What's the...
So 75 Hard, it's a program created by Andy Friselis that started First Form, and it's like a mental wellness program, but Tyler can probably speak more to it than I can because this is my first time and he's done it twice now. So you explain.
Yeah, it's a mental toughness program where you have to read 10 pages of a book every day, a gallon of water, work out twice a day.
One has to be outside.
Yeah, one of them has to be outside.
For 45 minutes for both of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there is
a progress picture.
Yeah, a progress picture that I always forget. And stick to some type of diet. Yeah. And it does help you physically and lose weight, feel better and all of that stuff, but it was meant to be a mental toughness program. And yeah, the picture part is like the easiest that you would think, but it's the easiest to overlook. And that's why he put it in there. Basically saying that it's the groundwork and the easy things that you don't want to forget.
The attention to detail is where you get lost in the big picture. Yeah,
exactly. So it's really neat. I've done it twice.
Well, I have to look into that.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because like me and my wife did it together. So it's always great if you're going to do it with an accountability partner. And I think that's same with pretty much any foray into business and in life. So if you have somebody who will hold you accountable, I think it's a great way to like keep you pushing forward.
Community is a big deal. And I feel like for me, so I'm on day 28, but on day 12 was when I started over. So haven't had a drink in what math there, 40 days. Yeah, but I've realized one for myself that I am so quick to quit on myself. I will go above and beyond for other people, but when it comes to not procrastinating and, doing all those little checkmark things every day, I will find every excuse in the book. But what you were saying about having accountability partners, I feel like that was one thing, like when I got in the military that I was missing was like that camaraderie. And even now I'm just trying to find people left and right. I'm like, hey, you want to do 75 hard? Hey, you want to do 75 hours? Somebody struggle with me.
And so it's funny too that we bring this up because if you listen to Andy Friselis' podcast, he tells you not to do it with other people because of that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's too easy to rely on someone else. Is that why? Or?
Yeah, because if you're doing it with someone else, like you're holding each other accountable, he wants you to hold yourself accountable because it's what you do like in the dark. Like it's the things that when other people aren't around, what are you doing? And he wants that to be the main focus of what the actual challenge is.
I feel like it should be a requirement to read the book before you start. Yeah. Because by the time I read the book, I understood it so much better. And like knowing like you have to stay on the same diet the whole time. You need to read the same book every 10 pages from cover to cover. Like the mundane consistency, I feel like is where we tend to fail because in the world now we're used to like instant gratification, constant distractions. And when you have to do something that's boring, we don't know how to handle it anymore.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you read more than 10 pages?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's at least 10 pages.
Minimum.
Yes. And they want you to do something nonfiction, self-help, which is hard for me.
I was just going to say, how was that for you, Chris?
I read 2 books during the same time because I have to, like, if I'm reading something, I like to escape from the silliness of people who come in and ask me stupid questions all the time. And then also trying to like grow yourself. So I had to read 2 books at the same time.
I usually do, but I actually haven't been because I was afraid that because I'm not forced. I'm choosing to read 10 pages every day. I'm really bad at being told what to do, even though I was in the military. That I'm just trying to read the one book so I don't like fall off on anything.
Right. So Landon, kind of same type of path where you're focusing on multiple different things at the same time. I know you're involved in a lot of different things within the community too. So what else are you focusing on other than your full-time job?
So I guess the two things I'm focused on mostly would be, so I was appointed to be on the North Carolina Department of Transportation board.
Oh, wow.
So do that. I'm the board member for Division 3, which is 6 counties around here, around New Hanover County.
Okay.
And then I'm also on the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission. So I've been on that for about 7 years. And it's about, keeping North Carolina's main things, keeping North Carolina's resources intact and growing the resource. That'd be the land that the Wildlife Commission owns, the animals, the habitat, keeping everything growing, and there for hunters and fishermen and all kinds of any citizen, any person who enjoys the game lands and resource pretty much.
So being on the board for the DOT, that just kind of made me think of a current controversial question for Wilmington right now. Do you have any influence on the bridge that people keep talking about?
well, fortunate. So being on the Division 3 chairman, and I'm on the Wilmington Planning Organization, the WMPO. So when that came to Wilmington, we basically got a third-party offer. A company came in and said, hey, we'd like to build this bridge. So we brought that before the MPO. And basically, I was catching it from both ends, from both political parties, both sides. And it was just, hey, let's see what other options are available. And I think a couple months later, maybe a year later, we voted again and to see what other options are available. So basically, the DOT on their dime is spending all this money to show what options there are, be it a toll bridge, be it a toll or a higher level bridge, all kinds of different options. And then they're going to bring it back and then let the Wilmington MPO vote on it. When you think about it, there's really no bike or pedestrian path between Wilmington, Brunswick County, Wilmington, Pender.
No.
So that would be added on. It might have a rail component. There's all kinds of options. But right now, no money from this area is being spent. It's state money being spent on that. So my thought is, someone else is paying to give you options and more information. What's wrong with that? So,
right. Yeah.
Well, and I've heard that the university wants to make it like the center point of Wilmington. I saw a PowerPoint at some event where they were showing like these grandiose bridges.
Yeah.
They're the center point of all these cities, and apparently that's something they're trying to push to have here in Wilmington.
Yeah, I haven't seen any images, but I know it'd be, like I said, I drove to Cherokee last week, North Carolina, but I drove through Charlotte, the Monroe bypass. It's, much better looking than any other road you've been on because it's all private money. They spend it up, make it look nice. Yep. And at the end of the day, after 30 years, 50 years, whenever the toll's over, that would revert to the state. So, when it's done after being paid for itself, it gets paid, given back to the state.
So, and I'm sorry to keep asking questions, you guys.
Oh, no, please.
Are you a part of any of the conversations about pulling funding from people that buy electric cars to give back to the roads and things like that?
So I'm of the technology committee. So that's something we bring up a lot of, and it's discussed a lot. So it's actually, it's kind of a difficult problem because right now, most of the state money comes from the gas tax. So how do you pay for the gas tax? You're paying for it, you don't really know it. So every time you buy fuel, you're paying for the gas tax. It's actually very efficient because it is a use tax. Everybody who buys gas pays for it, be it out of state, out of country person, be it you can't really get away with buying fuel without paying the tax. If you start, we're going to have to change because, gas prices or consumption is going down per person. Since our state's growing so much, we're able to kind of buffer that. But a lot of these states that are losing people or transitioning quicker to electric, you're going to lose this funding source. Obviously, it's better, it's better for the state to not have all this gas being burnt for environment and everything, but we're losing money. So it's an interesting way of or losing money per person. Again, going up over time is the gas tax income, but you're about to see that crest, that turn where it's about to start decreasing. We're only going up because, again, the population of the state's going up. So you look, how are you going to get this income for the state? Otherwise, you can tax, electric vehicles. You can say, I think Oregon's got a plan in there that's by mile. But how do you do that? Maybe at the end of the year when you bring your car in, you bring your vehicle in full, to get
inspection.
You can do that. But then again, you're going to be getting like $1,000 bill or $800 bill that you're not expecting. Yeah. That's a lot for anybody to be paying. How can you break that up over time? And also, again, in the state, there's basically 3 places where all the gas numbers go. 3, they call it the racks. So there are about 3 racks in the state. So again, very efficient, very easy. You're going to have to put in this whole infrastructure of people who are going to have to, and also what if not every car gets inspected? A lot of people don't want to have cars inspected because they're not, for whatever reason. And that's not legal, but you need to have it done. But a lot of it, you can't get away with not buying gas, not paying the gas tax. You can get away with not getting that permit.
Oh, true.
And it's like you're going to have a huge infrastructure to pay for that. And we're looking to a lot of different options, a lot of states. We're not going to be probably the one at the front changing the laws, but we're going to be looking at other states and see what others do. And Oregon's always one that's kind of in the forefront of being very new and updated. So it'll be interesting.
There is an electric vehicle fee that gets tacked onto your registration, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Don't you have a Tesla?
I do have a Tesla.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's around $150, like $135, something like that.
So does that go to the state or is that a federal fee?
That's state.
That's state, yeah.
Okay.
And I found out because I was upset about it. I was like, what the heck is this? And so I did the math to see what the gas tax would be and what I'm paying in the fee. And so the fee is 50% less than I would have paid in gas tax. So at least that makes me feel a little bit better.
I never really thought about gas tax. So when everybody complains because the new president and the gas prices go up and everything like that, is that going up because of the supply of the gas, or is that going up individually for each state to be able to get more money for the roads?
Both. So like the North Carolina gas tax has been set and it kind of adjusts every so often, but it's not like, oh, hey, when all the gas prices skyrocket, our gas tax didn't go up.
Yeah, it's not a percentage.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
So what's interesting, and nobody likes raising taxes, right? Because no politician likes to raise taxes. So what's funny is when the new administration came in, Buttigieg went up and who's the national federal DOT chairman or director or secretary, whatever, I forget his title, but he came out and said, he's like, everything's on the table to figure out how we're going to, fix this, except raising the gas tax. So federal don't want to raise gas tax. No state wants to do it because, you raise taxes, we're going to put you out of office. So it's a really, it's tough. Raising the gas tax would fix a lot of problems, but nobody wants to raise taxes.
I feel like every industry at the beginning of this year, or any economist that you went to, their predictions of what was going to happen and what is happening night and day. Like mortgage lenders, January and February, they're like, oh God, it's going to hit 6% by the end of the year. This morning it was almost 8%. Mm-hmm. And we're not even at the end of the year.
They're like, oops.
It's crazy.
That's why I bought my house early. But when you talk about gas tax, everyone always looks and like, gas is so much cheaper in South Carolina, but the roads are so much shittier.
Oh,
Excuse my language. But there's pros and cons to everything. Yes, it sucks that gas might be 15 to 20 cents more in North Carolina when you cross the border, but the roads are way better.
Or you can look at Pennsylvania that has an extremely high gas tax and their roads are horrible.
Oh my gosh.
I will comment. North Carolina, I think we have the second most miles of state roads in the country. Number one is Texas. So,
I was about to say.
So you don't have any county roads here. You have city and state, but it's something. It's funny you bring that up. A lot of companies, when they're looking between North Carolina and South Carolina, taxes are lower in maybe South Carolina. Yeah, but how are you going to disperse and have those logistics done? I think a lot of companies are coming to North Carolina saying, wow, and it's not like our taxes are high or anything. They get a lot of tax rebates from the the governor and the legislature. But when you start comparing and looking at logistics and roads, that's a big thing for a lot of companies coming to the state.
Well, aesthetically, I feel like in our state too, that everything is so well maintained. And I love Florida. I love visiting Florida, but there are sidewalks and there are roads. Everything is just overgrown and not taken care of. And that's one thing that makes me appreciate coming back to Wilmington is it's actually beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I was actually talking about the roads to my wife the other day too, because those are the amazing conversations that we have. But I was saying how I feel like 74, 76, 17, and 40, the 3 main ways you come into Wilmington, are always being repaved.
Yeah.
I feel like it's every couple of years. I know it's not quite that often, but it feels like every couple of years it's being repaved.
Well, in 421 in 2018 or 19 for Florence got just washed out.
Yeah,
so they had to replace the whole thing.
Yeah.
Being a DOT nerd, I appreciate you all noticing that because we, we like keeping the grass cut, like keeping the trash out of there, and repaving the roads is one of the highest expenses we have. So it's at least being appreciated.
Yeah.
This is a really random question, but it's in the middle of election season, so it makes sense. When they're cutting the grass, what do they do with the election signs? I'd prefer you just run them over, but
it's a good question. I do not know. I guess you can't. I'm thinking about I-40 being when they cut the grass there, but I don't know. I guess maybe they weed whack around it. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that one.
I would assume
I'll let you
weed whacking.
Wait, and then they probably charge more, so our tax dollars are going.
that's what I was thinking. And especially lately, I was just saying too the other day, it feels like there's 3 times as many like yard signs
It's
out.
that way every year. Yeah.
I know there's always a lot.
I have
but
so many in my car right now.
We don't discuss politics on non-political topic episodes.
We're not,
we're not talking
about
politics.
signs.
I'm talking about the signs that everyone puts out that drives me nuts.
So, because we mentioned it earlier, you're in a family business. How is that? Have you worked in a family business, or have you always worked for the family?
Yes, I have worked in a family business, and I get my start in the family business maybe when I was 12 or 13. And my dad, they put me in a store, and I really wouldn't know too much what I was doing, but my grandfather was still around then, and I'd go with him downtown or to the store, the mall. But no, you learn, and then I'd go intern in different departments, so you kind of get a good learning of how everything works. You don't know how everything works until you're really working there and do a deep dive. But as a free intern, unpaid intern, I'm probably sure I was still more work than I probably cost the company more than I would have. But even at being free, but no, I really enjoyed that. One of my dad's favorite lines to me is, there's pros and cons to a family business, and the pros definitely outweigh the cons. But there's a lot of things you come up across that you normally wouldn't in another business. You got more feelings, more different family egos and responsibilities that you got to work around. But I think as long as you're aware of that, it can be a good place to work. And
I feel like that's a lot of what our country was built on, though, is families being able to come together and create large industries and things like that. And so it's beautiful that you guys are still able to do something like that.
Yeah, thank you. We enjoy still working together, and there's everybody still. Well, pre-COVID, we used to go to lunch. Everybody used to go to lunch together, and have our major decisions made then. So yeah.
Yeah, and over multiple industries too. So you have legal, real estate, and retail. So a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, I've worked at Reed's for like 5 years. I didn't realize how big the family was until I like technically took a step up within the store. And so now I have to deal with a lot of like, hey, so-and-so is coming in, or this friend of this person is coming. I was like, wait, there's that many family members? I didn't even realize. Like, because I've seen Miss Arlene a bunch. I used to see your dad pre-COVID, and I saw like Alan. Mm-hmm. And then now, because I feel like the third generation is kind of like stepping forward a little bit more. I'm seeing more and more of like the younger people. And I was like, I didn't realize there were that many kids. Not in a bad way, but I just think it's kind of funny that you can really see like it's a true family. It's not like, oh, hey, it's a mom and pop shop. It's actually like the mom and pop have kind of grown forward and put out.
That's one thing I really, really appreciated about moving to the South, especially from California, is just not just how family oriented everything is, but just how traditional a lot of people are, and like just the common courtesy and like how people introduce themselves and things like that. Like I feel like, at least in North Carolina, from what I've seen, people really hold on to like those traditions.
Question for you, sir, because you're within the family business, and we were talking about 75 hard and like pushing your mindset to kind of like grow as a person. What do you see as a growth opportunity for yourself, if not for the businesses?
Well, that's a very good question. We're always, focused on growth at the Reed's board meetings or meeting at the development side. I don't know. I'll tell you, we basically I'll give you maybe the development side, and then from there you can determine if that's a good answer. Probably not. But so we decided maybe, and this was again the older generation came in. Dad and Jeff were saying, maybe let's just reading the tea leaves. Maybe it's time to start slowing down. Let's not bring on any new deals. Let's deal with what we've got. So we have a lot in the pipeline, probably as much as we've ever had. And it was really, that was some, don't want to call them old men, but old man wisdom where they came in, where I would have been a little more gung ho. But, you could kind of see things, and, 6 or 8 months later, that was definitely a good call. We're still, wrapping up stuff we've got, and, restart the engine again soon, but we're happy right now with finishing up what we've got, getting everything built, getting it leased up, and a lot of stuff still needs to be rezoned and everything. A lot of these projects can take 3-4 years. One I worked on in Columbus, Ohio, we just got it rezoned. It took 4 years to get rezoned. So then you got to get it built, and then you got to hope it rents or leases. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these are long-term horizons. But I'd say, I'll tell you what I personally focus on. I like a lot of capital cities. I like, a lot of places near universities where they have, federal or state employees, and I guess would be state for the capitals and state for the universities. But a lot of, places that aren't going to be losing jobs or moving industries. So kind of like those areas. And then if you look at our portfolio, a lot of the areas that are like that are where we've developed. I like a lot of brownfield sites too. So something I always, environmental policy was something I studied a lot of in school, and something that I take a lot of pride in, that we take a lot of contaminated sites and clean them up through the state brownfield programs, and then kind of make them, we're fully remediate them where people can live or work or go shop. So, yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
This is exactly why I wanted to hear you on the podcast, Landon, is because the way that you answered that question. Because if you would have asked me the same question, I wouldn't have had such specific information to give you. And I read something the other day that was, if you give a rich person and a poor person $100,000, one of them comes back with a BMW, the other one comes back with an asset to buy a BMW. And I'm realizing I'm still at the phase of I'm going to go buy a BMW, and he just described how to get all the payments to be able to afford the BMW.
I mean, it's good.
As I said, it reminds me of y'all seen this movie? Sorry, I can riff, right? I can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think the guy's name's Brian, not Baldinger. Brian, some movie about a guy who was an Arkansas walk-on, and he was made a 4th round pick. He probably should have been in the 1st round, but he was basically be Peyton Manning's guard for 10, 15 years. This guy was going to be a stud. He was an All-American, and he got in a wreck and died right after the draft, but before he was going to be in the NFL. And they have a movie about him. It kind of has a religious slant, but it's a very good movie. I can't remember the name. But again, it's the guard for, if you do search guard for Arkansas walk-on All-American. But in the movie, it's a cool part. They go, he had to work really hard for everything he's gotten, and he's talking about all these athletes who are naturally gifted and they don't work as hard. I think his brother or somebody in the movie is this reminds me, he says, say you earned $10,000 and someone else was given $10,000. It's you both end up with $10,000, but who valued more? Okay. And obviously the person who worked for it. So it's kind of a good reminder of that. But
well, it's the difference between somebody that wins the lottery and then they go blow it and they end up in debt versus somebody that worked really hard, and they a lot of rich people prefer to save supposedly because they don't want to let go of any of that money because they work so hard to earn it. I love how you're both Googling it now.
I know. It's a race.
It was interesting because it made me think of, so it was this guy. Brandon Burlsworth. I'm horrible at pronouncing names sometimes.
And remembering names.
But we were talking about this on our riff episode we had. It was hey, if someone came up to you and said, hey, I can give you $1,000 or I can go and give somebody over there $10,000. And majority of us were hey, I will take the $1,000 because if I give somebody 10, I don't know what they're going to spend it on.
Do you think the majority would take the 1,000?
Yes.
Of the people we had in here, yes.
The 4 here, 3 picked, let me take the 1,000.
Well, hold on. That's not true.
Technically, we said 10,000 and 100,000 is the first
question. It was 10,000 and 100,000 was the first question. The first question, I said I would take the 10. The next time with 1,000 or give away 10,000, I said I would give away 10,000, not take 1,000.
I was going to say there's no way Tyler would have done that.
Yeah.
He was I'll take the 10 over 100. But it's just interesting to see, my mindset is, sure, I'd really love that money, but I know that there's other people who could put it to better use. But like you were saying, the quote unquote, the older generation mindset, I've seen where businesses are oh, let's grow. And it's because they're all they see is the now. And the people who we need to take advice from the people who have been around. And yes, they can't see the future, but they've seen the trends and they know typically well enough to guide you in a right way for the most part. So you're not like, oh, let me just spend all my money. They want you, if they're a good person or like a good advisor, a mentor.
Yeah. So to piggyback off of that too, one of the things that we talk about in my industry is you need to have kind of a long-term perspective and someone that's lived through that. Because if you look at people mostly our age, for the past 14 years, we've been in a bull market. We don't know what it's like for there to be a pullback at all, or even just a stagnation in what's happening in the economy. So if you look at kind of what we've seen during our adult lives, we've just seen people making money since 2009. And everyone else that has that knowledge and wisdom to look back on over the past 40 and 50 years, they're like, yeah, we've seen this before. It doesn't continue going up. And so, and I'm sure very similar with your family as well, too, along with the other people with that wisdom, is while it was going up, they were putting a little bit more into their piggy banks because they knew this was going to happen.
Everybody in your industry for the last 3 years have just been like, stack cash.
Yes, that's exactly what we've been doing.
But when we went to the Power Breakfast last month, I think, one of the professors from the university, that's what they were talking about, is how the students right now, their expectations of what an entry-level job will pay is so astronomical and unrealistic, of just trying to shift that to make them understand that, like, you have to earn that. And Instagram, you see Elon Musk and all the different stuff, and they just think that, they're going to go post pictures on a beach somewhere and be millionaires.
Yeah.
Not quite some people, it works for some people, but yeah, not the majority, obviously.
Right.
Not so much.
Chris, going back to what you were saying, though, on the money, like if we were to quantify that in a simpler scale, I feel like if you were to put on a jacket this winter that you haven't worn since last year and you found $20, me personally, if I found that $20, it's like, oh, free money. I'm going to go buy myself something. Versus if I only had $20 left in my bank account, you better believe it's like the toothpaste that you literally got all the very last drops out of. So if someone were to come to me, and whether they were offering like $10,000 or $100,000, I feel like in both situations, I would actually get a larger return by giving it to somebody else. Because if it came to me and it wasn't mine, I would just blow it, and I know I would. But I feel like the impact it might possibly make for someone else, I would hope and believe that that would come around and affect me better in the long run.
So you figure out the name of that movie?
Greater.
It's
worth a watch if you're, bored. Again, it's just interesting.
I get bored all the time, so I put on Walking Tall this morning. I was like, oh, it's horrible. It's a remake.
Well, that's
it's the remake with The Rock. So there was an original one like years ago, but this was like pre-tattoo Rock.
I was going to say, there's something horrible with The Rock. I thought he was awesome.
They removed a scene where he like bashed in someone's taillight.
Yeah.
Because they were like, they don't want him to be a bad cop. They want to be a good.
Yes.
Was that the unedited version you saw?
Yes. So, because I've seen the original one.
You saw the taillight get smashed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So because they're always editing the past. Because with everything being digital, they can take shorts and cut pieces out. Let's be real. The Rock is adjusting his outward persona, his image, because like in the movie, this is not a spoiler, because if you haven't seen this movie that came out like 10 plus years ago, tough break. But yeah, like I said, this was Johnny Knoxville was this side character in this. So like it was so ridiculous. But he comes
10 years ago, is that like Jackass era?
Yeah, it was like 2012. It was,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was old. I think it was more than 10. But he shows up, moves back home, and I guess it's like the Northwest, and they're putting up a casino, and people are running drugs, doing bad stuff. And he's like, the sheriff isn't doing anything. So he runs for sheriff, tries to like clean the town up. And he tries to pull this guy over, and dude's like, what you gonna do to me?
Isn't this Blazing Saddles? I feel like I've seen this movie.
Welcome to Whiskey Movie Reviews.
But he literally is like, what are you going to do to me? And he is like, well, okay, I got you. And he walks to his truck, comes back, breaks his taillight. It's like, your taillight's broken. You need to get that fixed. But because it's revising history, now the taillight isn't in all the versions that you can find online, because it makes him look like the bad guy. And he's not trying to be a bad guy in the real world. He wants to pursue an outward image.
His kid shows.
Why are we doing that in society? I hate that.
Welcome to China.
Speaking of China, have you seen those, the 300 square feet apartments?
Yes.
That is so crazy.
Are you surprised?
I don't know. It's like living in a kennel as a person. That's crazy.
Well, that's New York City.
True.
We saw this thing the other day, and this girl is living in a closet. I mean, like literally, her apartment,
Figuratively,
her apartment is about the size of our studio, and she has a bunk bed that she has to crawl onto because she has to fit her kitchen and a bathroom on one side, and then has to crawl up to the bed to sleep at night. And I'm like, what?
The pictures I saw, like the bed and like the stove and the toilet, everything was touching.
Yes.
I can offer a little insight on this. So these are, a trend called micro units or micro apartments. I don't know about these like closet ones, but we're looking to do these in some cities where they're maybe 300 to 400 foot apartments. So you get a full bathroom, tub or walk-in shower. You get a kitchen, maybe kitchenette area. So instead of because you think back when you were in college or whatever, did you ever use your oven? I mean,
no,
I didn't. So like you can have a little pizza cooker or whatever, but it's like basically bigger than a hotel room. A lot of these, efficient ones, and you get a balcony. And then what you do is at the end of the hallways, you've got these like huge kitchen areas where people can go hang out, watch TV, or on the other end you get like study rooms or areas. So I've seen it in Tampa where these big time high rises are going in. They're doing it. They're saying they'd rather spend money for the location, but they spend their money on basically it's the same rent as a much bigger apartment, but you get a lot more amenities. So I don't know if that's the way of the future or not. It might be a trend, but
it might be a good transition for college kids though, that they're used to living like that anyway. So why not just take a half step out and get the job and
military barracks? We're used to that too.
Yeah.
Actually, that sounds way cleaner.
right? Barracks.
No, the Tampa, the micro apartments.
No, I joke because on my deployment, we stayed in like these they were nicer barracks, and then
run down Air Force barracks, basically.
Yes. But
if you stayed at Camp Lejeune and drank the water, I'd be happy to represent you for.
No, I don't think I ever drank the water at Camp Lejeune. I've been there a few times, just never drank the water. But like overseas, they had built some barracks, and I think there were 6 rooms. And because I was the low man on the totem pole, I had to share it with another dude. And I'm like, I'm sleeping on a bunk bed, being 6'3", having to climb up on this bunk and scoot around. And they moved us to a new room, and they're like, well, the higher ups, they didn't like you guys being that close to the motor pool, and they wanted to be there. I'm like, they never leave the base. But we got shifted, and so we all got our own little rooms. And one of my guys used to be a corrections officer, and he was like, this room is the size of a prison cell, if not smaller. And I was like, you're not wrong, because I could take my twin bed and like rotate it, and it hit wall to wall on one side, and I had enough room for, whatchamacallit, a chest.
I would say a dresser. Where are we going with this?
I had a chest at the other end. I'm like, this is all the space I have. But I was like, man, this is some tight, but I got used to it.
Try being on a ship. Literally, this table right here is the size of your bed. You got about this much room, and I'm using my fingers and showing like 6 inches underneath to be able to put your stuff. And especially on like certain cutters, they're stacked 3 high. So literally, the height of this, you can't even sit up in bed. You just have to like.
You'll be on the bottom or on the top, right? Because they throw up, goes down. Or
but I mean, a lot of men can't even turn on their side to sleep because it's too short.
If you work on a cruise ship, it's exactly the same way.
Oh, that's crazy.
I would never join the Navy because of that. I thought about it. I was like, first off, I can't swim. Just kidding. I can swim for those. I just don't want to swim like that. And 2, I'm not trying to be a sardine.
To flip it around real quick too, because we were talking about all of the things that you do and have accomplished and everything. And one of the questions that I had for you, and something that Kathryn and I have talked about, and just a bunch of other people on the podcast, is with everything you've accomplished, do you take time to celebrate those wins? Or if that's hard, why is that difficult for you?
No, I'm the worst. I focus much more on the losses and failures, which there are plenty of, to look at and hopefully learn from those. You got to enjoy the wins. I try to, and something I've worked on to improve. But I guess one way I look at it is, this 4-year process going through Columbus, Ohio, getting this rezone, had a lot of setbacks, had a lot of, wins, losses. The way I look at it and the way to celebrate the wins, which you have to do, is I don't know. I like football. I like sports. I look at it in different ways. So we'd go up there and we'd have a meeting where things didn't go great, but we accomplished a little bit. I'm like, that's like we got a 3-yard run. So looking at the football, okay, something really good happened. You got a touchdown. You got a first down. Something like really, really good happened. You got a touchdown. or something get bad, we got sacked or threw an interception. But, you look at it along, I guess the point of it is that it's not over till the game ends. So you've got a long horizon, and to just keep looking at it as long as you're advancing the ball, as long as you're, moving the ball forward, not backwards. There's always hope as long as you look over the horizon. So always glasses half full optimist. But yeah, I don't, unfortunately. I need to be better about focusing on more wins. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to go think about that more, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a question or a conversation you and I were having, Landon. And that's why I actually really wanted you to meet Tyler, because I swear, like, whenever I see something motivational, it comes from Tyler, and he is always pushing. And like, just in the short amount of time I've known you, you have grown so much. But oh my gosh, are you hard on yourself?
Yeah, I get told that.
Yes, he is.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way too. So if something goes wrong, I'm analyzing it to the nth degree, and I get something right, I'm like, yeah, well, of course it did. So just keep on going. And it's like, I planned for it to go well. So it just wasn't a win in my mind. And kind of what you've said and what I've been talking to other people too, like, need to take that time and appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you said that you're trying to do better with that too. What are a few steps that you've taken to try to take those wins a little bit more?
Maybe so a lot of work I do is with teams, different people, just because I feel like people I work with, I'm like, hey, let's get a beer. They're like, do they really want to go get a drink with me? Or they got families. They don't want, they don't want to stay at work another hour. It's like, so I guess, I don't know, trying to celebrate more wins, have more, not monetarily, but have it, it's more of a celebration, more of a group success. Let's all go to lunch or something, and I'll pick up the tab, or let's do something where, we all get to kind of celebrate it. And again, the reason I'm saying not monetarily is because, I don't know, when I was in business school, I took a class from Dan Ariely. Was awesome. Look this guy up. He's really good. Areily. And a lot of what he talks about is like predictable irrationality or people's motivations. It's like, if someone does, it's like kind of like a rat in a maze or something. You give that rat $1, it's like, oh, that's the prize. That's what I should do. And it's like, you don't want to focus things on money. You want to focus things more on, like, camaraderie and success, and it just leads to better teamwork and better successes over time. But that's a way I'm trying to look at it and celebrate more wins, just by everybody enjoying the moment. And maybe something I've done in the past is get these tombstones when we've done a project and I get yelled at it because I guess the family doesn't really like them. But I make sure everybody in the office, everybody was part of it, everybody gets a tombstone. Hey, we all helped build this, and send it to a lot of our vendors and folks we've worked with. And I don't know, I look at them with a sense of pride, and I don't know, little tokens like that, or something with the new office. A couple of guys in the office, we joke, we may not be the smartest, but we sure are tenacious. So
yeah.
we're like a honey badger. So I know that hopefully none of my family will listen to this podcast, but we're going to get a big honey badger that we're going to put in the office that we're building, and I don't know, be like a little mascot for us or something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And naturally, Landon, you also are similar to Tyler, where you're both the type of people where you are externally focused and you always want to make sure that everybody around you is taken care of. And so he asked you a question about what you do for you, and you automatically start talking about how you take care of your team. So I'm going to throw that back at you again. What do you do for you?
I don't know. Y'all need to tell me what I need to do.
I'm the same. I was hoping you'd have advice because I'm so bad at that for myself. What about you, Tyler? Do you have any things that you've started to do to try and have like more gratitude and pay attention to the wins?
So I kind of do, but it always goes back into business as well.
Yep. See?
So like if I do something well at work, I'm like, oh, you know what? I will have a little celebration. I'll go out and I'll try a different whiskey so I can come back to the studio and have something to talk about here. So it's just always kind of circular for me, but it's kind of cliche, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Like I truly enjoy the things that I'm putting my time and effort into, that when I do celebrate, it's within that business because I enjoy what I'm doing with it. And that might be detrimental as well.
No, not at all. That Andrew Huberman podcast that I sent you, that was one of the things in neuroplasticity that he was talking about, that in order to actually find true enjoyment for long periods of time, to actually keep yourself pushing through the lulls, is to find pleasure in the struggle. So that's actually a good thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just go buy comics.
At least you have something.
No,
Marvel or DC guy.
Technically,
Uh-oh.
well, it's funny because I figured someone would ask me that, and I'm like, technically, I like Marvel because I like Doctor Strange, but in reality, I like The Runaways and Nico Minogue because she's just hilarious. But I read a bunch of like off-brand stuff. I went to high school and actually grew up with the guys who own Memory Lane Comics now.
Oh, cool.
And so I try and like if I'm going to buy any sort of comic, I want to support local. So of course I go to Barnes and Noble or place the order, but I know, and I've pushed myself to the point where instant gratification isn't always the answer. So I'm like, hey, let me order this if you guys don't have it. I'm going to ask you, support you guys. I'm like, hey, I need the next 8 of this book. I'm placing the order now, so I'm going to come back. And to me, it gives me more of that, like, hey, if it takes 2 weeks or it takes a month, it gives me something to look forward to. So when I hit that next goal, I'm like, hey, this is my celebration.
Oh, I like that.
And jumping back to Dan Ariely, which again, if you believe, I think he's the gospel, the Bible, he's the best. But his theory, they've done a lot of studies. They say when you want, go do experiences. But if you have a something of substance or something you want, like a couch or a comic, that the joy of like wanting it and desiring it is actually better than when you get it in there. So actually what you're doing by delaying the gratification, you're actually enjoying it more according to his studies. So that's pretty good. You didn't even need to read his book.
It's so like we interview so many people and I learn so many things from them, but I also have, my brain works a different way than most people apparently. And so they're like, oh, have you listened to this? And I'm like, no, but I've been doing that for the past like 10 years and didn't realize I was supposed to.
Okay, so out of curiosity, for the two of you, and your answers will probably be different. Like big dreams, goal, like famous person that you want to have on this podcast.
Ooh. Go ahead.
That's a good question because I think about that from time to time too, and it always kind of changes depending on like who I'm kind of thinking of.
Yeah.
So like whiskey wise or like service wise, like Gordon Ramsay would be really cool to have on here.
Yes.
So like I think that would be a lot of fun. And like business wise, I like how Elon Musk talks. So I like to have his perspective and to have that on here too.
So my question is, what's your definition of famous?
I was just using like famous as in anybody basically that stands out significantly to you that you would feel fulfilled if like, hey, we made it with this podcast because we interviewed this person.
So my wife will probably slap me, but I would love to have Kathryn Hahn on here. She's a comedian and I think she's freaking hilarious. If you've ever watched Step Brothers, she is the wife of like the shorter brother, like singing in the car and the brother's like, oh, you're hitting the wrong note or whatever. That's his wife in that movie. But I love her. Who that is. Yeah. Just because
she filmed here in Wilmington.
Yes. I'm mad because she filmed something while I was on deployment. Aww. And my friend texted me and she's like, hey, or like she sent me a message. Don't you like that one redheaded lady? Like, cause she worked at like a CVS up here and everyone on somehow cause there's not really a pharmacy in downtown anymore. They always go to the CVS on Market Street and that's where she works. So she's like, yeah, that girl came in. And I was like, I hate you so much. I'm like, I was an extra in a bunch of random things and never got to meet cool people. But as a like super famous person, I'd like Max Tuning or Christian Guzman because they're both heavy entrepreneurs in different spaces. Like Christian is very athletic focused, but he has a huge clothing empire that he's building, but he's also investing in real estate and doing a bunch of like other little things. And Max is just a goofball. And I feel like he'd be kind of fun to have on here. I
feel like if we put it out into the ether now, it'll actually come around and happen. So Elon Musk.
We'll tag all the people.
I have a friend was her brother's good friend. So I'm definitely going to text him.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Who's?
Kathryn Hahn's brothers. I guess he grew up with her in maybe South Carolina.
How crazy would that be?
That would be. Well, and
Chris is like, what?
It's like, oh, that'd be so fun. Yeah. It's always funny because I told my wife that and she's like, your choice of like the prettiest women is the weirdest thing I've ever chosen. I was like, I don't know. I just think she's kind of funny. I think she's pretty, which is just me in a nutshell.
I think she's very pretty as well and very funny. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kathryn Hahn, I have to Google this.
She's also in one of my like top 10 favorite movies called How Do You Know, which you guys should all watch because it's like a comedy, but it's like a rom-com. It has Reese Witherspoon and Paul Rudd.
She
Jack Nicholson.
is so
Yes.
funny. Like, her humor is so awkward. Like, I blush. She makes me blush.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to Google who it was.
But I love How Do You Know, because it's a great movie of like reality of like it. I watched it the other day and it always sparks me to think, because Reese hit a spot in her career and she had to pivot to something different. And like Paul Rudd plays like the good guy. He's like, I don't want to hear any bad news. I'm just thinking positive all the time, even though shit kept like piling up, and to the point where he's finally like, you know what? I'm just going to live my best life while I can. And to me, that was like when I watched that movie, it was a turning point to make me start thinking a little bit better of like positive things. Like, even when shit's going bad, there's always something positive that you can get out of it. You can't always be in the good spot in life, but you also can't always trust your family.
That's a lot of random information. Bringing that up, though, I actually was going to ask you, Landon, is you said that you always try and see that the glass is half full. Is that something that you do in business when you find yourself getting frustrated, to try and like focus on the positive stuff more?
That's just more of just, some things are imprinted on you when you're young. That's kind of my thing, just always not giving up, never quitting, and just, pursuing. If there's something you really want to pursue, just keep going after it. So no, that's not something, unfortunately, in business. We probably being the legal side, you always see more negatives than you do positives. So you want to see, how can this go wrong? And you see a million ways it can go wrong, and hopefully navigate those negatives. But yeah, I also want to say, How Do You Know is also a very good movie. Sorry we're doing a movie review today. But no, I'd say,
I figured we sat like this would be good.
Right,
yeah. More just seeing, hey, what could go wrong here, and just trying to find that. But the way I live my life's a little more optimistic.
It's actually funny we bring that up too, though, because all the years that I did work at Reed's, one of the other groups that we had, every time something could possibly go wrong, my famous quote was like, "It'll be fine." Mm-hmm. And so she would always look at me because something was starting to kind of go down the wrong tracks, and then she was, "Already know, it'll be fine. You're gonna say it." And she was like getting frustrated with me, and I was like, "You've known me for how many years now? And when was it not fine at the end of it?" And she was like, "That may be true, but it doesn't make me feel any better now." And I was like, I think a lot of it comes from what I'm thinking too, and you're probably the same way. You've already analyzed the percent of what are these things that are going to go wrong. And you're already kind of have in your mind, all right, this is the worst case scenario. Odds are that probably won't happen, but I have a contingency plan if it does.
So that's what I was even going to say, is even though you are looking at all the things that may go wrong, I feel like you're doing that to be able to protect yourself to have a positive outcome. So in turn, you're actually focusing on the positive.
Yeah, I'd be saying, like, I don't have this anymore. I think my subscription ran out, but I had a really good decision tree model where, you put like percentage. Okay, what's catastrophic failure? Losing this much, or project fails. What are the odds of that? And people are notoriously horrible at predicting percentages of success. So it was interesting to look at that, but it's kind of like, I guess you got to make your own decision tree and model, and see if it fails. Yes, I'll overly focus on why it did and what could have gone. What'd you miss? Did you miss anything, or did you see it coming and you just thought it was, a lower percentage? But you never know. A lot of the rezoning. How are the people going to vote? How is an election? And election makes a difference. There's one in Raleigh where we were having a lot of trouble, and then the local citizens basically voted in a very conservative city council that is now very pro-growth, pro-activity. So now you see all these 40-story buildings in Raleigh being approved, which, I mean, in my opinion, it's a big city. It's growing. That's a good thing. But some people would say, hey, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's going to be too much traffic and some other negatives. But it's, in a business where you rely on other people's opinions, and you can't always, you never know what they're going to be thinking or what their motivations are. A lot of times they're hidden.
Does Raleigh have the capacity for buildings like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wilmington, I don't think could maintain a bunch of 40-story tall buildings.
We can't even handle the traffic we have now.
But
we're working on it.
So
you have the guy that you need in front of you about that.
Well,
one.
it's funny because I have so many, I've lived here my whole life, and everyone's like, the traffic is so horrible. And I'm like, first off, traffic's only bad because all y'all moved here.
It's your fault.
Yes. But it's like, you got to think, what's the reason why all these things happen? And that's where my perspective comes from, is like, you bring everyone here who has a different driving style from different parts of the country. And so then it's going to affect the people who've lived here their life. And they're like, hey, we drive 5 over, 10 over the speed limit, and we use our turn signals. And then you have the people who are from like other spots and they're like, I don't use a turn signal. I'm going to merge and get in this little small gap, which then causes the person who's driving the proper, like southern proper way.
Okay,
and
yeah, I was going to say, you better clarify because you guys stopped to merge on the freeway and I don't know what that's about.
No. But I'm saying like there's ways to do everything so it affects everybody. But the Wilmington traffic is always going to take longer because Wilmington, I don't think, was meant to be a massive city. And because the growth has been exponential and it takes years to build up the infrastructure, like the bypasses. Like I have a friend who he's actually working on that project, like the military cutoff extension kind of bypass. Like it takes so many years to get through the paperwork and to do all the research for it. And all we see is it's taken 10 years. I'm like, yeah, because on the front end, they took another 5 to 10 years to figure out exactly how they do this. Same goes with diamonds.
Yeah.
That actually just made me think of another question for you, Landon, in regards to DOT. After COVID, I know that inflation and things like changed a lot of the projections that people had. Did some of the programs and things that you guys already had in place in the DOT have to get reformatted because of that?
Yeah, good question. Yes, is the short answer. But basically, so you had a lot of, we were in flux. We basically, due to the MAP Act, basically we were in financial issues, the DOT was. So legislature came in, bailed us out, and which was, the legislature, the governor all agreed to do that. So we got a lot of projects moved forward. But then a lot of these projects are costing a lot more money. So things keep getting pushed back. Projects that here in Wilmington probably were supposed to be done now are now pushed back several years, 5, 10 years, because costs are going up. But also, so then you have the federal stimulus that basically moved a lot of those projects forward. So I would say, I think when the Obama stimulus package was maybe $800 million or $600 million, that when things were so much cheaper then, that made a big, huge difference. Now it's basically, in my opinion, it moved a couple. What was it? $1 trillion, $2 trillion. I don't know. I don't know the number, but it moved projects forward. But it's not like bringing in any projects that weren't going to happen anyway. Like it's not bringing in a bridge that was never going to be on that program. So the way the program's run in North Carolina, it's called the STIP, S-T-I-P, STIP program, and projects are analytically looked at by data and analyzed and given numbers, and that's how they do that. But those like that intersection there, they're going to first build 4 little side roads around it, see how that works. Then you're going to build an overpass a couple years later. But it's going to take stuff in infrastructure, and DOT transportation takes decades. Unfortunately, it's like trains. We can't go due to property rights. China can go, hey, you guys are moving, we're getting you out of here. Environmental, who cares? Let's just build this train. Boom, we're going to do this, and they get it done quickly and cheaply. In the U.S., property rights are a big deal. You can't take someone's property, you can't move them. Environmental issues are a big deal. You don't want to knock out any animals or plants that are going extinct or that have value, and so it takes a lot longer in the U.S.
Well, I know that the housing market was highly affected over the summertime because of all of the foreign lumber companies that claim force majeure. I wasn't sure if supply was also affected for DOT. I didn't even think about that. So
with the Department of Transportation, the majority of your work would be based on oil prices. So that just think about asphalt, concrete, steel, and all those, skyrocketed. And so things have gone up, significantly. So you're not getting as much as you used to.
There's a good analyst, not allowed to name drop, unfortunately, but who deals a lot with commodities. And he was saying too, because of oil prices and gas prices, he was like, you don't realize all of the things that you need oil and gas for, first of all. And second of all, on top of that too, every other commodity needs oil and gas at the very bare minimum to transport it from one place to another. And usually multiple other avenues that kind of oil plays into. So that's why if you see oil go up, every other commodity is going to go up with it just because it has to.
I hadn't thought about that because to me, if you say oil and gas, I just think of a car, but then you have to think of farm equipment. You got to think of chainsaws. You got to think of like the boats that are coming over. That's crazy.
And that's the stuff that you're even thinking about just provide emissions. There's a lot of things that take oil for it to be made.
Yes.
So like how much petroleum is inside of these, like a water bottle. It's pretty much anything you touch has petroleum in it.
Wow.
So, unfortunately, We've held you a lot longer than I expected.
I think I just pontificated too long. So
No,
That's okay. So we do always have one last question, and we asked Kathryn before too, so now it's your turn. So if you were to tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
She should have given you a heads up. That'd
That's
have made
my
it
bad.
easier.
have fun.
That's actually a really good one.
It's a quick, you only get one trip around, so make the most of it.
I love
like
it.
Yeah, the short, simple ones are the really easy ones for us to clip and put on social media. So I appreciate that.
Well, for being a riff, this was pretty good. We killed a lot of time with like no questions, no prep.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. This was a lot. This was fun, a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And it saved Chris and I too, because we were talking just a few days ago. We were like, hey, we both have off Monday and we didn't schedule anyone. And Kathryn was like, hey, you want someone to come on the podcast? I was like, yeah, Monday.
It
So
worked
that was
out.
great.
So yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you want to follow us on social media, you should already know we're at whiskey.and.wisdom on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want them to follow you on anything, Landon?
No, I'll just follow you all.
Okay.
You can't follow me, but I'll follow you.
Yes. And you guys should know, you should keep tabs on Kathryn because she is always making moves. They might not be big, but
A little bit of both.
yes. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, hanging out. We did try this Texas straight bourbon.
It got better as I added more water to it. So I will give it that.
And no, we don't add water to water it down. You add water to express the flavors a little bit more. So I saw a video. So there's different ways to drink it. You can drink it straight. You can do a little bit of water. You can put an ice cube to chill it down. There's multiple ways.
Ginger ale.
There's
Oh my God.
the only wrong way to drink whiskey is to just pour it out.
Yes.
Unless you're pouring one out for your homies. So yeah, leave a review for us on all the social medias if you can, or subscribe. We're updating, adding new stuff to the ecosystem all the time. So keep an eye out.
Oh, and we have some big news coming up. So make sure you listen to our next episode because it will benefit everyone.
Yes. All right.
Great teaser.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.